Now, many of you know that most of the JSE stocks are still on surging mode, and this came after, of course, we saw the outcomes of the elections and the conclusion of the government of national unity, which, of course, our leading party agreed with other parties to join hands to rule or to lead this country forward. So this is something that resulted in not only the JSE stocks surging, but we also saw even our local currency, which is the South African rand, strengthening. But one thing that we saw this week, because that was 2 weeks ago, this week what we saw is that we are starting to see some weakness in some of the stocks that really gained a lot in the previous week due to these, of course, outcomes of election and the deal that the leading party struck with other political parties, and that is when they signed the GNU. And there have been articles, ladies and gents, that have been surfacing throughout social media indicating that because of one political party saying that intending to leave this coalition that, of course, they formed with the leading party, then it is resulting in the stocks, some of the stocks, JSE stocks, and even the rand to weaken. So people are really sad about this because it looks like the rand is being manipulated, or the markets are being manipulated, and it looks like the market has got favoritism, which is something that is not good. I mean, one would expect that obviously the market, yes, the election outcomes, maybe they have some influence or some sort of influence on the markets, but we can't, people don't really, never really thought that it could even go to a place or to a point where just a party threatening to leave this coalition that is already being formed, it will have so much influence into, of course, the markets. This is something that is making people to be worried when I check in the streets of social media. But of course, when it comes to the JSE stocks or the shares that we buy in the JSE, yes, these things can, of course, influence them, but not for that long, because companies, you know that at the end of the day, what makes their share price rise or drop is, of course, how they are running their business, how they are performing, the kind of revenues they're generating, how they're performing in terms of profitability, and all those kind of things. So at the end of the day, though, some of the stocks are hit or are being heavily impacted by this, but in the long term, if that company that you bought it based on fundamentals, when the fundamentals continue growing, then there is no doubt that that company, in terms of the share price, will continue growing. I mean, I just as I've said in the beginning of this video, there are some stocks that are still really doing well, like Shoprite finished the week trading at 280 rands per stock, almost at their all-time high, which is something that is pretty exciting. I mean, Sun International finished the week up over 3%, or on Friday when the market closed, they were up over 3%, which shows you that some of the stocks are still doing very well. And while other stocks are suffering, others are really doing well because fundamentally they are very strong. Fundamentally, they remain stronger, and therefore we are seeing their stock price, share price not being affected by much, which we thank God for the 2 weeks that we saw. Because for a company like Shoprite, which is one of the companies or one of my largest holdings in my stock market portfolio, seeing them surging the way they did, I'm happy. I'm still happy where they're trading at. And of course, I hope to see most of your stocks that you own also recovering from this week, because this week we saw some of the stocks really taking the hit, especially after the political news or this coalition that has been formed, some people wanting to pull out. So I just hope things can get better with time, and I hope we get to see companies continuing to perform or doing so well. I mean, the future looks bright for the SA economy because inflation is coming down, interest rates very soon. The SA Reserve Bank will be looking into cutting interest rates, and that will fuel more spending from consumers, because there are people that are living from hand to mouth simply because of the high interest rate environment we are in. They can't pay some of their bills, and therefore they are having to compromise some of the things. Their spending has been cut, which therefore even the companies that they go and spend their money on, they are not receiving, they are not spending as much money into those companies, which has a negative impact onto their revenues or those companies' revenues. And therefore it means that the growth that we see, it's not that much, because a lot of consumers are not having enough money to spend in some of the product services that they used to, which those are the products and services that the companies generate their monies from. So I hope for the best. As inflation is and interest rate get cut off, at least it will bring a breather, it will bring a relief to the consumers. And once again, we are going to see these companies, or some of these companies that have not really recovered, doing exceptionally well. But I must say that regardless of all this, there are companies that are doing exceptionally well. I mean, ShopRite is one of them. We've discussed about this company. The ShopRite is doing exceptionally well, because whether the economy is bad or not, people still have to eat. People still got to eat, and therefore it is for this reason that this company, like ShopRite, it continues to do very well. Otherwise, with all that, guys, my sentiment on JSE stocks will remain bullish. I think from here the worst has happened, and most of the stocks, when things ease in terms of interest rate, we're going to see some pretty good, decent recovery. Otherwise, that's all from me, and I wish you nothing but the best in your stock market investing journey. Do your own due diligence before you buy any stock, because if you just buy because someone is buying and without doing due diligence, you will get to panic sell when you see sharp drops sometimes from that stock. So you need to do your own due diligence, so that at least you know what's happening in the companies that you own. That will make you or to be confident even going to the market. Otherwise, that's all from me, and God bless you all.